What would you do if you could see beyond the veil of time? What would happen if an exiled man, abandoned on a desolate island, received visions of the end and the beginning of all things? How to explain a text that both fascinates and terrifies. A book that has inspired both artistic masterpieces and catastrophic interpretations over 2 millennia. What do the number of the beast, the 4 horsemen, the mark on the forehead, the lamb and the dragon really mean? Are they merely symbols of a distant past, or do they continue to echo in our digital world, surrounded by crises that seem apocalyptic? Few literary works in human history have aroused as much fascination, fear, and diverse interpretations as the last book of the Bible, the Revelation of John. Written almost 2 millennia ago, this enigmatic text continues to influence art, literature, and spirituality to this day. In this video, we will dive into the fascinating symbolic universe of this mysterious book, exploring its origins, historical context, and the meanings behind its most powerful images. And perhaps in the end, we will discover that Revelation is not so much about the end of the world, but about how to see our world with new eyes. But before we begin, I'd like to ask you, do you trust God? If so, comment below. I trust in you, God. And don't forget to follow this channel for more biblical revelations that most religious leaders don't have the courage to discuss. One revelation amid tribulation. Around the year 95 AD, a man named John found himself exiled on the small rocky island of Patmos in the Aegean Sea. Isolated, far from his community, amid desolate landscapes of volcanic rocks and the endless horizon of the sea. Christian. Tradition identifies this man as the Apostle John, the beloved disciple of Jesus, now in his final years, carrying memories of a ministry that transformed the world, but facing a dark historical moment. Other scholars suggest it could have been another John, a lesser-known Christian prophet and leader. Whoever he was, he found himself in a moment of profound vulnerability. The Roman Empire at that time wasn't just a military and political power, but a totalizing spiritual reality. Emperor Domitian demanded to be called Lord and God, Dominus et Deus. The coins, monuments, and public rituals all proclaimed the divinity of Caesar. And if you want to deepen your faith even further and bring the word into your daily life, I have something special for you. The ebook 52 Weeks with the Creator offers a complete plan for your spiritual journey, with daily Bible passages, reflections, and practical actions to transform your walk with God. That's over 300 pages to deepen your understanding. The download link is pinned in the first comment. For the followers of Jesus, who confessed Jesus is Lord, a profoundly political declaration, the consequences were severe. Refusing to burn incense to the emperor or participate in pagan festivals, Christians were viewed as atheists and enemies of the state. Many were martyred, others lost property, social status, and were marginalized. Christian communities lived under constant threat, questioning themselves. If Jesus is truly the Lord of the world, why does it seem that the forces of evil are winning? It was in this context of apparent defeat, of historical obscurity, that John received a transformative experience, a revelation that would redefine how he and his communities viewed their present reality. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's Day, he wrote, describing a mystical experience that transcended time and space. The veil between heaven and earth became translucent. Invisible realities momentarily became visible. What John he described using deliberately coded language, employing symbols and images from Hebrew scriptures that his communities could decipher, but which would remain obscure to Roman authorities who might intercept his letters. Reflect for a moment. What does it mean to receive spiritual clarity not in a time of triumph, but in a time of exile? What might it mean for us today that the most powerful vision of Christian hope came to a political prisoner on a desolate island, Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 10. In our own moments of isolation, loss, and apparent defeat, Revelation reminds us that these are precisely the places where the veils between worlds become thinner, where new perceptions become possible. Perhaps it's when our security systems fall that we can finally see beyond them, just as John, in his forced exile, received a broader vision of reality than would have been possible in times of comfort and stability. The letters to the seven churches with which Revelation begins, real communities in Asia Minor, carried a message simultaneously alarming and comforting. I know your works, your suffering, your perseverance. I know what you're going through. Remain faithful until the end. Revelation 2, verses 2 and 19. These words echo through the centuries to us, reminding us that our own struggles are seen and known, and that deeper realities operate beneath the turbulent surface of our times. 2. The sacred language of the invisible. As we enter the symbolic universe of Revelation, we're invited into a different way of reading. Here, numbers aren't mere quantities, they're doorways to deeper spiritual realities. They're like musical notes in a divine symphony, each carrying meanings and resonances that transcend the literal. In biblical tradition, numbers have always been more than counting instruments. They're expressions of divine order, reflections of cosmic harmony, bridges between the visible and the invisible. The number 7 appears 54 times in Revelation and represents divine perfection or completeness. We find 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls. This number remains deeply rooted in our culture today. We organize our lives in 7-day cycles. Science identifies 7 colors in the visible spectrum. Western music is structured around 7 notes. Even in our digital age, the number 7 maintains its aura of completeness and perfection, appearing in brands, operating systems, and products seeking to convey excellence. Reflect for a moment. How do you experience completeness? In your life, where do you perceive cycles of 7, work and rest, creation and contemplation? Revelation invites us to recognize the divine rhythm that permeates all creation, even in times of apparent chaos. The number 12 symbolizes God's people, the 12 tribes of Israel in the Old Testament and the 12 apostles in the New. The New Jerusalem has 12 gates with 12 pearls and 12 foundations. Revelation 21 verse 12 says, "It had a great high wall with 12 gates, and with 12 angels at the gates. On the gates were written the names of the 12 tribes of Israel." Our contemporary society remains structured around the number 12. We divide the day into 2 12-hour cycles, the year into 12 months. We use systems of 12 units in measurements. The Circle of Stars of the European Union and many other international organizations adopt structures based on this number, unconsciously echoing its symbolism of perfect organization and governance. The number 12 reminds us that faith is never merely individual. We are called to community, to a collective identity that transcends our differences. How do you experience this communal dimension of faith in an increasingly individualistic world? The number 666, the famous number of the beast, likely uses a code called gematria, where letters correspond to numerical values. Many scholars believe this number referred to Nero Caesar, one of the great persecutors of Christians. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666, Revelation 13, verse 18. Perhaps no number in Revelation has captured the contemporary imagination more. In the digital age, theories about barcodes, RFID chips, and biometric identifiers frequently invoke 666. This symbol of opposition to God continues to fuel narratives about corporate and governmental powers that subjugate humanity. While many of these theories lack historical theological foundation, they reveal our ongoing concern with systems that threaten to dehumanize and control. More than a secret code, the beast's number invites us to discern: to what forces do we give our allegiance? What systems or ideologies do we ask to define our identity? In each generation, we're confronted with systems that demand conformity in exchange for security and prosperity. Revelation challenges us to constant discernment about where we place our ultimate trust. The number 144,000, 12 times 12 times 1,000, symbolizes the totality of God's people, multiplied and amplified. In the Bible we see, "Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel." Revelation 7, verse 4. But just a few verses later, John sees a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language. Revelation 7, verse 9. In the age of social media and global connectivity, this number reminds us of the universality of human community. While some traditions literally interpret the 144,000 as a limited number of saved, its true symbolic meaning resonates in our technological capacity to unite people of all nations, tribes, and languages in virtual communities that transcend geographical boundaries, a prefiguration, perhaps, of the universal community envisioned in Revelation. Revelation offers us a vision where our numerical identity, as countable, measurable, categorizable individuals, is finally transcended in a communion that no one can quantify. In a world obsessed with metrics, rankings, and algorithms, what profound relief we find in this vision of belonging that goes beyond counting. 3 mirrors of spiritual reality. In the symbolic universe of Revelation, the creatures that John contemplates are not mere characters in a fantastic narrative. They are visible manifestations of invisible spiritual realities, reflections of the divine and the demonic, the celestial and the earthly, the eternal and the temporal. The 4 living creatures, with appearances of a lion, ox, man, and eagle, surround God's throne in perpetual worship. These enigmatic beings represent aspects of divine nature and creation. In Revelation 4, verses 6 to 8, we see, in the center, around the throne, were 4 living creatures. The first living creature was like a lion, the second was like an ox, the third had a face like a man, the fourth was like a flying eagle. Each of the 4 living creatures had 6 wings and was covered with eyes all around, even under its wings. The lion represents majesty and power. The ox symbolizes strength and service. The man reflects reason and wisdom. The eagle suggests transcendence and vision beyond the horizon. Together, they offer a vision of the fullness of divine nature, power and service, wisdom and transcendence in perfect balance. These ancestral images of power and majesty continue to dominate our contemporary visual landscape. The MGM lion, eagles on national emblems, idealized human figures in advertising. We perpetuate these symbols of strength, service, reason, and transcendence in our visual culture, often unconscious of their sacred roots. In our spiritual journey, we are invited to contemplate: which of these natures predominates in my life? Do I primarily seek power, service, wisdom, or transcendence? Revelation invites us to an integration of these qualities, mirroring the divine nature in its fullness. The slain but standing lamb is perhaps the central symbol of all Revelation, appearing 28 times. It represents Christ, sacrificed, but resurrected, apparently defeated on the cross, but eternally victorious. The Bible presents, "I saw a lamb, looking as if it had been slain, standing at the center of the throne. He went and took the scroll from the right hand of him who sat on the throne." Revelation 5, verses 6 and 7. This paradoxical image, a sacrificial lamb that nevertheless stands at the center of cosmic power, is a complete revolution of our notions of strength and victory. At the heart of the universe is not coercive power, but loving self-sacrifice. The paradox of power through sacrifice finds modern echoes in figures like Mandela, Gandhi, or social movements that transform suffering into moral strength. In a culture that often glorifies brute power, we find countercurrents that value the strength of the meek, victory through voluntary sacrifice. This apocalyptic vision of inverted power continues to inspire non-violent resistance against injustices. This image of the Lamb confronts us with a profound spiritual truth. The wounds we carry are not the end of our story. Our vulnerability, embraced with love, can become our greatest source of strength. How have you experienced victory through what seemed to be defeat in your own journey? The red dragon with 7 heads represents Satan and the powers of evil that oppose God and his people. Revelation 12, verses 3 and 9 demonstrates, "Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray." In our era, the multi-headed dragon resonates in power structures that seem too vast to confront: globalized financial systems, omnipresent digital surveillance, corporate monopolies that transcend national borders, environmental devastation, and technological manipulation of truth reflect seemingly invincible powers that oppose human dignity and the integrity of creation. Revelation assures us that, however threatening these powers may be, they are already defeated in the divine economy. The dragon, despite its apparent strength, cannot prevail against the Lamb. But woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury, because he knows that his time is short. Revelation 12, verse 12. This perspective offers us not naivety about evil, but realistic hope that sustains us in dark times. Where do you perceive the presence of the dragon in our world today? How can we resist without succumbing to despair or hatred? The 2 beasts, one rising from the sea and another from the earth, symbolize the political and religious powers that place themselves in God's position and persecute his people. I saw a beast coming out of the sea. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast. Revelation 13, verses 1 and 2, 11 and 12. The symbolism of the beasts, political power allied with religious distortion, maintains disturbing relevance. We see this symbiosis in regimes that instrumentalize faith to legitimize oppression, in fundamentalisms that sacralize violence, or in the religion of consumerism that promises redemption through products and images. Revelation's warning against false worship resonates in an era where the line between consumer and citizen frequently dissolves. The beasts invite us to constant discernment. What narratives shape our worldview? What voices receive our ultimate loyalty? Revelation warns us that idolatry, the worship of what is not God, often manifests not in pagan temples, but in everyday systems that we shape and that shape us. The woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars is one of the most beautiful images in Revelation, interpreted in various ways, as Israel, the church, or Mary. Revelation 12, verses 1 and 2 says that a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. This image of sacred femininity and resistance persists in communities that nurture hope in hostile contexts. We see contemporary echoes in women who lead climate justice, movements in communities that practice radical hospitality at militarized borders, in art that recreates visions of cosmic harmony in fragmented times. The woman giving birth amid suffering continues to inspire communities that gestate hope amid the pains of our time. The woman reminds us that our faith is not just about resistance against evil, but about bringing new possibilities to light in times of darkness. Just as she gives birth to a child amid persecution, we are called to generate hope in times of despair. This birth is not just an event of the past or future, but a continuous invitation for us to participate in the birth of the new amid the old, of light amid darkness, of hope amid suffering. 4. The heavens declare the glory of God. In Revelation, the heavens are not merely a distant backdrop for earthly events. They are living witnesses to the drama of redemption, participants in the unfolding of divine purpose, canvases where God paints his message in cosmic colors. Revelation, chapter 4, verse 1. After this, I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. The voice I had heard before, like a trumpet speaking to me, said, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after these things." In our journey through the desert of modernity, we often lose the ability to read the heavens as divine language. Urban lights obscure the stars. Busy schedules prevent us from contemplating the sunset. Digital screens capture the attention we once directed toward the skies. And yet, something in us yearns for this cosmic connection, this language older than words. The sun turning black and the moon turning to blood are recurring symbols in Revelation, representing great transformations and divine judgments. I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth made of hair, and the whole moon became like blood. Revelation 6, verse 12. These images evoke a world turning upside down, a complete inversion of the established order. The lights that guide us and structure our time temporarily removed, suggesting that our sources of orientation and security are not as permanent as we think. These images of cosmic collapse resonate deeply in our current collective consciousness. The climate crisis, with its extreme phenomena, involuntarily evokes apocalyptic language. Economic collapses and radical political upheavals are often described in celestial terms: economic eclipse, perfect political storm. The very term, apocalyptic, has become common in our vocabulary to describe radical transformations in the established order. Have you experienced a moment when the lights guiding your life were suddenly darkened? When loss, grief, failure, or crisis made the world you knew unrecognizable? The eclipses of Revelation remind us that when our sources of natural light and guidance are temporarily removed, we can finally perceive more subtle lights, the divine presence that has always been there, but which we often miss in the blinding clarity of ordinary life. Falling stars represent the collapse of powers and authorities that seemed eternal and unshakable. Revelation 6, verse 13 says, "The stars of heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its unripe figs when shaken by a strong wind." In the ancient world, stars were seen as divine powers, fixed and immutable. Their fall represents the collapse of powers presumed eternal, a powerful message that no human authority remains forever. The falling stars of Revelation invite us to reflect: where have we placed our trust? On which stars have we based our security? For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal but mighty in God, for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. 2 Corinthians 10, verses 4 and 5. When the powers we trust collapse, we are invited to rediscover the only unshakable foundation, the divine love that remains when everything else fails. The new heavens and new earth represent the final promise of Revelation, not destruction, but complete renewal of creation. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. Revelation 21 verses 1 and 4. This vision is not of escape from material creation, but of its transformation and elevation. Revelation does not end with disembodied souls floating in an abstract spiritual realm, but with the city of God descending to earth, the divine and human finally reconciled. This powerful symbol of cosmic renewal finds contemporary expression in movements seeking to reconcile humanity and nature. Sustainable communities, regenerative technologies, circular economy, all these initiatives carry echoes of the apocalyptic vision of a new creation. Visionary art that imagines post-capitalist or post-anthropocentric futures continues the tradition of revealing transformative possibilities beyond our limited horizons. The promise of new heavens and new earth reminds us that our Christian hope is not of abandonment of creation, but of its healing and transformation. We are invited to participate in this renewal here and now, becoming co-creators with God of a world where justice and peace kiss. 5. Glimpse of the heavenly home. After the visions of tribulation and cosmic conflict, Revelation culminates in one of the most beautiful and inspiring images in all of Scripture, the New Jerusalem, descending from heaven like a bride adorned for her husband. Revelation 21, verses 2 and 3 reveals, I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. This final image is not just a decorative detail, but the revelation of the divine purpose that runs through the entire history of salvation, to restore perfect communion between God and humanity, between heaven and earth, between the eternal and the temporal. Each of us carries in the deepest part of our being a longing for home, not just a physical place, but a state of complete belonging, of being fully known and loved. The New Jerusalem responds to this fundamental yearning of the human soul. John describes a cubic city of pure gold with perfect and harmonious dimensions, 12,000 stadia in each dimension, approximately 2,200 kilometers. This cubic form evokes the Holy of Holies in Solomon's temple, suggesting that the entire city is the place of God's direct presence. These dimensions should not be taken literally, but symbolically, representing perfection, harmony, and inclusivity. The number 12, associated with the tribes of Israel and the apostles, multiplied by 1,000, suggests fullness and universality. This city has 12 gates, 3 on each side, always open, with the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. Its foundations are decorated with 12 precious stones, each with the name of an apostle. The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl. The great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass. Revelation 21, verse 21. The symbolism is clear. This city unites the old and the new, Israel and the church, all nations and all times. Surprisingly, John tells us that this city has no temple. I did not see a temple in the city, because the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. Revelation 21, verse 22. This absence does not indicate secularization, but the opposite. The divine presence has become so immediate and universal that it no longer needs a separate space. The sacred and the secular finally reconciled. Where have you experienced the presence of God outside the walls of the temple? The New Jerusalem invites us to recognize that all of creation is, potentially, the place of encounter with God. In the heart of this city flows a crystal river, and on its banks grows the tree of life. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, as clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb. On each side of the river stood the tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit, yielding its fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. Revelation 22, verses 1 and 2. These images evoke both the Garden of Eden and Ezekiel's visionary temple, suggesting that the divine plan culminates in the restoration and perfection of the original creation. It is not a nostalgic return to the past, but a progressive journey to a future that surpasses even the idyllic origins. In our era of ecological degradation, the symbolism of the river and tree resonates. In environmental regeneration initiatives, current concrete projects and initiatives reflect the apocalyptic hope of nature, not only conserved, but transformed and elevated. The language of healing of the nations through the leaves of the tree of life finds expression in holistic approaches that seek integral health for ecosystems and human communities. How have you participated in the restoration of the wounded creation? This city needs neither sun nor moon to shine on it. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. Revelation 21, verse 23. This final image of transcendent illumination assures us that ultimately we do not depend on created sources for guidance and sustenance. The light we truly need comes directly from the Creator and the Redeemer. This image of transcendent illumination finds contemporary echoes in contemplative communities that cultivate awareness of the divine in everyday life, in mindfulness practices that seek authentic presence, in artistic expressions that work with light as a metaphor for transcendence. I confess that among all the images of Revelation, this is the one that most deeply touches my heart. The promise that all our search for light, truth, and guidance will finally be satisfied not by concepts, theories, or systems, but by the face-to-face encounter with the love that created and redeemed us. Revelation 22, verse 5 shows us that there will be no more night. They will not need the light of a lamp or the light of the sun, for the Lord God will give them light, and they will reign forever and ever. This is the final invitation of Revelation, a call not just to understand symbols, but to walk toward the light that comes to meet us, a light that already illuminates our path, even when we still walk through valleys of shadows. John's revelation is not primarily a text about the end of the world, but a message of hope and resistance. For the persecuted Christians of the first century, these visions assured that, despite present suffering, evil would not have the last word. The symbolic language of this extraordinary book continues to resonate through the centuries, inspiring artists, writers, and spiritual seekers. Its complex symbols invite us to look beyond appearances, to discern the forces in conflict in human history, and to glimpse the possibility of a world renewed by justice and love. Revelation does not invite us to fear, but to vigilant hope. In its final message, we hear an invitation that echoes through the centuries. The Spirit and the bride say, "Come." If this video has brought spiritual clarity to your life, share it with someone you feel would need to hear this message of hope. Subscribe to our channel and activate notifications to continue this journey of prophetic discovery and spiritual preparation.